How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Viral Virtue. It's your favorite apostates. I'm McKay.
I'm Jordan.
And welcome back. I'm 30 now, by the way, in
Happy
case you were
birthday,
wondering.
McKay.
Okay, yeah, everybody, a lot of people over on Instagram said a lot of amazing things, and I appreciate it.
Go follow us on Instagram.
I'm not very up to date on responding to a lot of those things. I apologize because it's just a lot sometimes turning 30. But anyway, thank you all for the birthday wishes. I do appreciate it. Before we get to everything, let's hear a word from today's episode's sponsor, Bellesa.
We and our friends at Bellesa are literally sending out free vibes to everyone who signs up to our giveaway.
You all already know by now, Bellesa, they're the #1 company for all things sexual wellness. And guys, we need to share something insane with you right now.
The first collection of silent toys, yeah, I said silent, are here. Meet the Whisper collection. The world's first silent vibes, Bellesa's new Whisper Tech line. Make sure you never need to choose between power and discretion. Genius? I think so.
Before we hit the details, check this out. Okay, I took the noise gate off of that so you could see. So silent.
You can't hear anything.
Each and every one of these 3 toys are luxurious, aesthetic. They are
look at the
so
color.
soft, great color, and there's something for every body. Literally body, right?
They also pack a serious punch. I mean, these babies are powerful, but somehow also completely quiet at the same time. So you can put your pleasure first, as we often recommend on this channel, without waking up the entire house, which is a nice little bonus. Or even with your partner sleeping right next to you, want to be discreet, you know? And now in whatever format you prefer, you know and love the Whisper Bullet, the silent vibe with 5 speeds. So it's tiny, like you can see in terms of like my hand size. Literally inaudible, like McKay just showed you, but power is insane.
Then we have the Whisper Rabbit and the Whisper Vibe, which both have 6, count 'em, vibration speeds. Whisper Vibe gives you the quietest internal stimulation that you'll find anywhere, while the Whisper Rabbit has independently adjustable internal and external stimulation, just in case you want to step it up another notch.
But still in silence. This collection is wild, and you gotta not only see it, but hear it to believe it.
That's why we're hooking you all up. Everyone who signs up wins a free Whisper Vibe or a free Rose toy.
You know, the Rose Suction toy, the #1 viral TikTok toy that's taken the world by storm. It is an iconic, and you know me, I say that a lot, but I mean it truly. Iconic suction vibe that is beloved for a reason.
So go grab your free vibe at the link down in the description. And once again, thank you to Bellesa for sponsoring this episode.
Okay, so we have gathered you all here today for a few reasons. One, to watch this very obscure Kevin Franke interview that he did with this random lady that I don't really know a whole lot about. I saw this in the 8-Passenger Snark subreddit. Didn't even look at the comments. Just said, cool, let's watch it.
Somebody emailed it to us.
Oh, somebody
as
emailed
well.
it to us
Yeah.
too. Oh, yeah,
you
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
even see it in the email? Okay,
no,
yeah.
I do remember that now because then I saw it. Yeah. So
shout out
thanks
to
both
them.
of those, that human and all of y'all in the 8-Passenger Snark sub. So before we get into that, like, we're going into this blind. I don't know anything about this video. So like, don't hate. I don't know. I really don't know what we're walking into here. But also, if you don't follow us on social media, you might have missed a very cool announcement.
If you have been around us for a long enough time, we've been talking about a project that we've been working on for almost like a year now.
Mm-hmm.
We've been blue balling everybody. Haven't been able to say anything about it until this past week. Finally, the trailer for Ruby and Jody, A Cult of Sin and Influence is coming out. We flew out to Salt Lake City to participate and contribute. We worked with the producers on a couple different occasions on a couple different things to be included in this documentary.
It's a 4-part documentary, 4 episodes. It will be airing on September 1st on Investigation Discovery. And then after that, you will also be able to find it on HBO Max.
So mark your calendars, tune in your TV sets, if that's a thing anymore. I don't even know how people watch Investigation Discovery. Or just wait for it to come out on Max, and you will see these
Smiling
mugs.
faces.
On...
Shout out to you if you watched the trailer and you heard my voice in the trailer.
Yeah, our image is not included in the trailer, but Jordan speaking is in the trailer. So
if you heard that, shout out, because there were some people who messaged me about it. But we're very excited. I think this documentary, I know there has been others, but I think this one will bring things that are much needed to be talked about into the sphere in a way that I don't think other docuseries have done. So I'm hoping that you will enjoy it as much as we did filming it.
Anyway, thanks for listening to our little shameless plug on that situation. Let's get on with checking out this podcast. Let's look into what we're going to be seeing here. This is coming from a channel on YouTube called Julie de Jesus. I think formerly she was Julie Lee.
Julie Lee.
Going over to her website, I don't know what the she does. Okay. She sounds like a motivational speaker, kind of.
That's the vibe.
But like here on the little navigation bar in her website, we've got home, speaking, podcasts, cruise, store, contact, about, event planners, and coaching.
It is giving a like youth group motivational speaker.
Kevin, I think we should be staying away from the coaches. That's just
why
me.
is he gravitating towards another coach who is blonde and doesn't have any mental health credentials? Now, I don't know how often she's talking about mental health, but it seems to be there's an overlap. I think she does a podcast with a therapist. She does a podcast with a dude.
At least the cruise that she's doing.
Yeah.
She's also going to be with Tony Overday.
Who's an LMFT. So like, well, she put LFMT.
Maybe that's something different, and he's not actually...
I think he's actually a therapist, so it's LMFT. So let's switch that around. Yeah. Licensed Marriage and Family Therapist. But so I think this dude actually has credentials. I don't have any problem with this dude. We're not here to compare to Jody, because I don't think that's what's going on here. But it bothers me. My alarm bells go off a little bit when Kevin just went through probably some of the most traumatic experiences that a person can go through in life on the public stage, on a national worldwide sphere, and then goes on a podcast with another coach.
Wasn't he in the legislative session talking about coaches, or was that just his daughter?
No, I think no, because he was the one who brought it up. I read an article about him talking about it. So maybe I have it all wrong. Maybe she's not trying to be a mental health coach. Maybe she's like a public speaking coach or something.
I don't know. The vibes have always just been off ever since. So.
I don't know. But like, I'm by and large, there are few exceptions. I am a coach hater. I know that's terrible. That's just me, my personal opinion, not my professional one. My professional opinion would be there are probably decent, ethically operating coaches out there, but there is still not, generally speaking, an accrediting body that makes them be responsible and ethical. Okay. So, anywho. That's a story for a different day, but I'm already kind of feeling weird going into this because I don't really know what we're working with, and her website doesn't really give me a vibe for like what she's coaching people on. Like there was a quote that was like, I met with her and she made me feel unlocked. What does that even mean? What does that even mean?
The alarm bells are going ringy dingy dingy.
What is happening?
What is this?
So full disclosure, I don't know what we're getting into. I don't know if this is going to be whack. I don't know if this is going to be boring. I don't know. And I mean, going into this...
And if it's too boring, you guys will never see this, and I don't know what
and we will quit and give up. But we'll see, like, is this just like a picture background also? Like, looking at this opening shot, this looks like, where is that? Isn't that like Greece?
Like Italy or something.
Or Italy or something?
I don't know.
Is just this like an image, or there's no way they filmed this there, right?
No. Welcome to I See You, a podcast where we know that human connection restores mental health and resilience. I'm your host, Julie.
Okay, we're already talking about connection
and mental health. Jesus. Kevin. Kevin.
Why?
How do I do Catherine? What's her name? The Kevin from Home Alone.
Oh. Moira?
Yeah.
I can't think of
I'm
it.
Jesus, and I see you. Let's be friends.
Let's not.
Hey, I see you listeners. Today's interview is nothing short of significant. I am sitting down with one of my new friends who was thrown into the spotlight in 2023 when he uncovered, along with the rest of the world, horrific truths about his wife. If you've seen the 3-part documentary on Hulu,
He was thrown into the spotlight.
He was? He was? You mean he hadn't been
mean-
on the spotlight with a channel with millions of subscribers for like years prior to that point?
Right.
Devil in the
Okay, that's
Family, The
interesting.
Fall of Ruby Franke, you know exactly what I mean. When I first met Kevin, we had dinner, and as I sat across from him and I listened to his perspective, I knew that he had remarkable insight to share. This is one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful interview I've had the honor to do on ICU about how to utilize human connection to improve mental health and resilience.
I can't take the name.
I see
Serious.
you. I feel like I'm in
ICU.
the what's the intensive care
Intensive
unit.
care unit.
Am I gonna need to be in the
Maybe,
intensive
maybe
care
it's
unit
supposed
after
to
this?
be a double entendre.
I
I
think
don't know.
it's Jesus related, isn't it? I don't know.
I don't know.
Even amidst the most trying of circumstances. There's been a lot covered about the abuse in the Ruby Franke story, the shock and awe and the details. But today we get to hear, for the first time ever, Kevin's perspective on how he felt seen through the hardest times of his life. In a world where we often are gravitating towards news that is divisive, that is shocking, that is, quite honestly, stories to pull us apart and to see bad in the world, it's my honor to have Kevin on the podcast to share light about what we can do, what we do have control over, even in the midst of challenge. This is the ICU podcast, and today's guest is Kevin Franke. Welcome, everyone, to
Why was she doing like
It was so intense.
this is like spirit speak that we would do when I was a missionary,
Oh.
where you have like this intense like
cadence.
and you focus
Yeah.
on your inflection so you can convey the spirit to
Uh-huh.
people to try to convert them.
That's a good way to describe it because I was like, why is she talking like this?
Yeah.
We're here with another episode. This is a podcast where we talk all about how we can improve our mental health and our resilience as we engage in human connection. Today, I'm really excited to have our guest with us. This is someone that I met through a mutual friend not too long ago and was just really interested in the perspective he carried and felt like would be really valuable in this podcast as we all, as an ICU community, work to see others better, to create authentic, genuine connections, and really combat that lie of feeling like we're alone and realize
Does he not have Stockholm syndrome from Connections?
Can we not?
I feel like I have it, and I'm not even involved.
It's making my
directly.
eye twitch every
Like,
time
I'm
I hear it.
like-
I'm like, ugh.
He's got like I feel like it would be like I don't even know. Like it would give me a shiver down my spine
Every time we
anytime
talk
anybody said
connections.
fucking connections.
so much more in common.
I also just want to bring this up real quick because we didn't talk about it when we were talking about the website. In her about section, she has her husband in there. And in the last paragraph, Julie De Jesus lives in Utah with her husband who looks like Mr. Clean.
That is not Mr. Clean. I am sorry. Kevin is the OG Mr. Clean.
Look at him. He's
That's
the OG.
Mr. Clean right there.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
This guy's closer to Mr. Worldwide. Kevin, give your
like that
sunglasses
chef.
to him.
He looks like that chef that used to have
Jose
a
Andre?
show.
Oh.
It was
Emerald?
the cake guy. No.
Oh, the cake boss guy.
The cake boss guy. That's who he looks like.
Kind of low key.
I don't know. He's wearing a cross, so maybe they're not Mormon. I don't know.
Have. And so with that, I'm excited to have our guest today, which is my friend Kevin Franke.
Hey,
Hey.
happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you're
Hey.
Okay, let's be real. Sometimes what I think we need to restore our mental health.
Jesus Christ.
We haven't even started yet.
Why
Already got an
did
ad?
we interrupt that with this ad for their stupid cruise?
Why is the photo that she's using for this? I told McKay this when we started. It looks like, in 2015 when you went to the Mac store with your friends and you took photos on the little photo booth app in the Mac store. That's what this is giving to me. What is happening? And why do we need to go on a cruise to talk about things? What are we talking about?
People need to stop going on cruises.
What does it mean
with
to
like this.
restore
We
mental
need to
health?
stop doing this.
Restoring your mental. What does that mean?
Well, ask the LFMT what the deal is.
That's probably not his fault. That's probably hers.
Anything else
guarantee
is
you.
just a break, which is why I think I need a vacation. And so do you. Join me and my special guest, Tony Overbay, on the first ICU Living Cruise, the mental health cruise of a lifetime. Check out and make sure you grab those early bird tickets at julie-dejesus.com/cruise. And guess what? You don't even need a babysitter. Kids set sail free. julie-dejesus.com/cruise.
Just lock him in your room.
We went to a dinner with a mutual friend and actually have an interesting personal connection we did not know we had, but you taught my brother in college.
Yeah,
it
civil
turns out.
engineering.
Yeah.
He's a very talented engineer.
Well, you don't need to say that, but no, I'm just kidding.
But he is. He really is.
He's a good dude. He's good. He's actually been
There's
on the
no
podcast.
way
No,
he
he's not.
remembers that guy. There's no way he remembers that guy, right?
He's like, no, he's not. It's fine.
About that later. He did a series, episodes 33, 34, and 35 on pornography addiction, actually.
Okay. Oh, you just pull him.
Uh-oh. Jordan's about to smack
The bat
down.
signal is coming. Oh, Tom. Hi, baby. What are you doing? Why is he so involved today? Yeah,
Dinner time is approaching.
you've summoned me. Unfortunately for you, Julie, for all the wrong reasons. I'm not going to make assumptions. Maybe she has a nuanced take on pornography addiction, but I venture to guess that if you use the term pornography addiction, I'm probably not going to love what you have to say about it. But anyway, we don't have time to listen to me drone on about porn addiction.
Pocket, you know the numbers for.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. Don't quote me on that. It's somewhere in the 30s. But as we discussed at dinner, and my husband was there as well, as he had never seen the documentary, but I had recently seen it, actually kind of in preparation to meet you, because I had heard about the story in passing. It sounded really difficult, and I was going through a very difficult time in my life at that point, and kind of anything heavy, I was like, I don't think that I need to delve into that. And so for me, watching the documentary was pretty fresh. There's a lot of people nationally that know the story. I would assume that's been a lot to just kind of manage.
Yeah, it has been. So the name of the documentary, in case people don't know, it's airing on Hulu. It's called Devil in the Family: The Fall of Ruby Franke. And it has been. It's been a lot to manage. It's been a lot to go through. And
how long has it been? Was it 2023?
That everything happened? Yeah. Well, it was really between the documentary covers everything from about 2015 to 2023. But the big events happened between 2021 and 2023.
Right. Okay.
So it's good that I'm here today. I don't talk to too many programs, or I don't put my words out there very often. I've turned down a lot of invitations and things just because I
Why did the coach get the pass?
I'm also very curious to that, but I don't doubt this. I'm sure he turns down hundreds of invitations
Oh,
because
I'm
everybody
sure.
wants his side of the story, right? But also, like, talking about this on an obscure podcast with like a random, maybe Mormon, maybe not lady is like also giving me weird vibes. I don't know.
don't feel like there's much more for me to say than what I've already said, either publicly or in the documentary. But we are mutual friends, and I really like the topic that your podcast focuses on. And I feel like it's pretty relevant, and it's something that I didn't get to give a lot of voice to in telling my story yet. And my story is deep, it's broad, it's complex, and there's no way that we're going to be able to unpack it in this brief time that we have together. But we can certainly focus on a couple of facets from it, and things that maybe you find are helpful, or that you feel will be good and healthy for your listeners to hear. I'm happy to talk about. But the reality is I'm still in the middle of my story. And I like where I'm at in my story, and I like the trajectory that I'm on, but I'm still writing the story. And so, I had a couple people say it's too early to talk to people, and I'm like, it's not. I mean, there's already lessons that I've learned that I think are very useful that I can share, and hopefully other people will find them helpful too.
Well, thank you for coming on. That means a lot. I I thought about it a lot before I asked, because you brought up some of these reasons. There's already been a documentary put out, which I felt like they did a really great job with from my perspective. And as you said to me, you're pretty happy with, feel like they gave a pretty realistic take on what happened.
Yeah, the documentary blew me away. I had zero part in the producing of it. Literally, my only role was to sit down and answer questions. So over a 32-hour interview, over 4 days.
Okay, that was my next question.
Yeah,
I was like, 32 hours.
That would be awful.
That's crazy.
It was 4 days, 8
I was
hours.
gonna say, our documentary was probably what, 6-7 hours of filming.
Not even. I think.
We got to 6
I don't remember, but
because we were late to our
yeah,
flight. Our flight got delayed, but it was fine.
didn't matter.
But I mean, it's interesting though. I wondered if they were involved in the production, and it sounds like they weren't. It sounds like they supplied the information and Hulu constructed it in a way that they thought made sense, which again makes sense to me. But I always wondered if they gave Hulu kind of preconditions to their involvement. Like, we're not going to speak ill of the church. We're not going to talk about church involvement, because that's something that we've heard a lot. And I haven't seen the Hulu documentary, but we like lived this for a year. I don't need to see anything else with it right now anyway. But with that, I feel like the number one thing that we heard was like the church walked away from that documentary kind of unscathed. Like, a huge missing element of that docuseries was not given as much as attention as I think that it deserves, which is disappointing. But I wouldn't be surprised if that was a condition of their involvement.
Right.
It's like, we're not going to talk negatively about the church, which...
The one that we're in, they wanted us to talk about our Mormon experience.
And that's very different.
Wow, to get those snippets.
Yeah, and so they took out, they condensed 32 hours of interview down to about 20 minutes of my speaking in the 3 episodes of the documentary. But
That's unreal.
yeah, the documentary is still, it was released about, 4 months ago now, and it's still top 15 in most countries on Disney Plus or Hulu. After 5 days of streaming on Hulu, they reported that it had more than 7.9 million views, which made it the most watched documentary series in the history of Hulu.
Wow.
After 5 days.
Oh, I would imagine there's mixed feelings with that. I don't know. Like, I'm like, do I say congratulations? Like, that doesn't quite feel right,
No,
right?
I know. No, it's surreal. It's surreal for sure. But I think it just shows the significance of the story, the depth of the story, and the interest that people have in it, and for various reasons. I think the story has, dare I say, something for everyone. And I think the documentary did a good job
That's a weird way
addressing a lot of those different facets of the story.
What I really appreciated about your interview specifically, as I listened, and like I said, this was before I met you, but I knew we were going to go to dinner, and I was just at a different place in my life where I wanted to know more. Strangely enough, what was crazy was watching the documentary. I lived just a few blocks away from your house. At the time when that was happening, I had recently gotten divorced and moved into a basement apartment in Mapleton, just at the top of Hunters Valley. Now, I grew up in Springville, Utah, so all those places, people, and I knew. And that was, when the story had come out, I don't remember hearing, I didn't know it was right there. And so 100%, I was running past that house because that was on my route. That house was on my route. I was running past that house during a lot of that time. And that for me was just an interesting moment also to recognize just, first of all, how much we need each other, and also that you don't know who's struggling. And there's just...
Okay, I have beef with this immediately because 1, why are you centering yourself in his experience?
Right.
Number 2, like, everybody has that weird, like, oh my God, there's a serial killer that lived next door. That's so bizarre. I had no idea, but like, this is weird to me. But like, also, people did know that there was something going very wrong.
Right.
And people were advocating for someone to intervene. And so I don't think, and hopefully this is not her main takeaway, but I don't think the moral of the story here is like people didn't know. Because the problem was a lot of people knew, including random people who weren't even that directly involved. And a lot of people were sounding the alarm and raising the red flag and going, there's something weird here. And still we did not get to where we needed to get to sooner. You know what I mean? So like that's a weird, and I don't know, maybe she's talking about his kind of like siloed experience of like
Right.
feeling alone and sequestered in that and not knowing that that's what was going on with him. I don't know, but that's just a weird take for me, knowing the ins and outs of the case the way that we do.
Need for community. I loved in the documentary, I loved your interviews because I felt like it was very authentic. Today I had even sent you some questions on my part, trying to be sensitive of, hey, I haven't always done a good job with my guests on ICU because I'm kind of off the cuff. I don't, when I interview on other people's things, I'd rather not see the questions because I'm like, well, I'm just going to show up and I'll just answer them.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of respond the same with me. You're like, well, I'll just show up and I'll answer the question. I was like, oh, great. But I felt that way on the documentary, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Is I didn't feel like your answers were pre-planned. I felt like you thought you were very thoughtful and methodical in your answers. They were very honest. They were like, I remember a specific time when they asked, like, even though your wife did these things to your children, you still love her. And you said, of course, like I saw her at these times too. And I just, for me, that was very relatable and it made it more human. I would think watching the documentary, I would think for most people, if they're being honest with themselves, if it scares them or is frightening to them, it's because you can see how this could happen to almost anyone.
Yeah. I think one of the most terrifying things about this story that a lot of people conveyed back to me is that this story showed just how close to home something as horrific and tragic as what happened with my family can be to them. If you look at the neighborhood that this occurred in, you would never think in a million years that.
No, that's where all my best friends lived growing up in high school.
Can we talk about the contextual undertones of that statement for a second? Why would something like this, something crazy, something violent, something dangerous, not happen in a community like Springville? I would like them to answer that question for me. I don't think there's overt intentional like racism or socioeconomic discrimination happening here in this conversation, but I think this is an undertone of this conversation. Is it's like that I hear from people sometimes when we discuss cases like this is like, well, everybody's white here, like everybody's Mormon,
Right?
Everybody's white, and I'm like, okay, but how does that filter in?
Right. Well, I see this online too, where people are like, oh, well, there's a lower crime rate. Huh? What? Because everybody's more. The week that we moved out of Bountiful to Ogden, there were 3 stabbings in Bountiful by the same person.
There were sex crimes that happened in our neighborhood when we lived there.
Right.
Like, there's some weirdness in that statement.
Like this weird lens that a lot of these rose-colored glasses that people look through when they're thinking about Utah and like.
Or people who abuse their children.
Completely overlook these kinds of things. Because
Mormon white ladies don't do that.
How many cases of Jody and Ruby are out there that were never discovered?
Sure. How many white women are in jail for child abuse?
Right.
I mean, we don't talk about those things, and people are going to come for me and say, well, that's really a woke take. And I don't care, because I think it's something that deserves social context. Our positionalities in these conversations, I think, are relevant. Like, why would we? And is that not part of the problem? Is Ruby's positionalities as a rich, white, Mormon woman, was that not taken into account when DCFS showed up at their house? Like, tell me that's not part of it. And you can't, because it is. It literally is. Consciously or unconsciously, it's a part of it. And is that contributing to part of why this case was not taken as seriously? Because it's like, oh, they're rich.
They're on
Mormon.
YouTube. It's fine. Whatever.
It's fine. People lie. Like, that played a role in this. Like,
people are just haters on the internet.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's the kind of stuff that people were talking about to DCFS when they showed up to the door. Oh, they're just haters on the internet. Blah blah blah. Or also the other thing I was hung up on was the idea that this could happen to anybody.
This is kind of a weird case to say that.
Kind of, but at the same time, there are some extremely specific conditions for this kind of thing to happen.
Be a successful family vlogger with millions of
So
followers.
Yeah, we're really whittling down the pool of people that this specific kind of situation could happen to.
If he said a religious extremism, though, like if that's what he's talking about, like, yes, let's have a conversation about how fast people can slide down that pathway. but I don't think that's what he's talking about here.
Well,
I think he
that's
wants
her.
to, well, yeah.
This is just her trying to be relatable. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this just happened in my predominantly white, rich neighborhood of
Yeah.
Springville. I never could have imagined this happening. Like,
Well, it's like trying to, I think, humanize and maybe validate. And maybe this is part of what's happening between them, is maybe not making Kevin feel so bad for being married to somebody that could do this. It's like we want to humanize Ruby and be like, well, this could have happened to anybody. Anybody in your circumstances probably would have done the same thing. And I don't think that's fair to say.
right.
I think there's a lot of people who might have handled the situation differently. Sure, there's a lot of people who probably would have handled it the same.
Right.
Especially with Mormon conditioning and the things that Jody was probably telling him that were insane.
Right.
Like, sure, but like let's not take it too far,
That was where the nice, clean, safe houses. I mean, night games.
Nice, clean, safe.
Nice, clean, safe.
Oh, Jesus. I'm a prophet. What
Just
did I just
immediately.
say?
I guess you're not too woke, Jordan. Sometimes it pays to be too woke.
Clean, white. I know she didn't say white, but like,
you know what
what's
she
the
meant.
context there? And again,
Delightsome.
Again, I'm not saying, like, let's be real. If she watches this, I'm sure she's going to be deeply offended that I brought that up. But, like, let's think about this, because it's not even necessarily intentional, but it is our job to look at that and go, ooh.
What am I actually trying to say here?
Okay, let me back up, because what am I meaning with that? Because can racism creep in unintentionally? Yes. Yes, it can. Yes, it can, especially if you grew up in a predominantly white area, okay? So, like, would you be having the same conversation if we were talking about West Valley? No, you probably wouldn't. And so this is our area where we go, oh, let me sit with that. Let me think about it for a second, because maybe that's not what's initially coming to mind, but maybe that is factoring into how I think and talk about the situation.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't fit the stereotypes,
Nope.
right? And that's one of the lessons that I've learned from this, and I've tried to communicate to policymakers and legislators and to the public in general, that it doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter the circumstances that you're in. It doesn't matter the neighborhood you live in, the church you belong to. It doesn't matter the community that you live in. It doesn't matter how affluent you or your neighbors are. There are tragedies playing out in every community, in every neighborhood, in every church, in every religion, in every ethnicity. There are tragedies everywhere. And it's human nature.
But it's so disappointing to me because, yes, this
Categorically
is the
true.
most basic, truly statement of all time, right? Like, tragedies happen to literally everyone. That's generally how it works. But like when it comes down to situations where things are happening maybe at a more disproportionate rate, we're not willing to look at those scenarios and go, what's happening here? Is there a confounding factor that's making these things worse? Is there something that, like, is there an element to the religion or the experience or the wealth that is contributing to these things that are happening here? Why can't we do that with Mormonism and other things, like Mormonism and child abuse, Mormonism and sexual abuse? Like, we're willing to acknowledge it here in this very blanket, this happens to everyone all over the place. But when it comes to areas where we need to, like, look at them with a critical eye and go, yeah, something fucked up is happening here and we need to do something about it, like, that's where the conversation usually stops.
I see this a lot online whenever I bring up the numerous cases of child sexual abuse that the church has aided in cover-ups, whether it be, just through local leadership or through the leadership that calls into Curtin and McConkie to seek legal advice regarding reporting abuse and things of that nature when it's confessed to them. And all they say, all these people, the number one response I see is, well, look at the Catholics. Okay, but what about the Catholics? Because you're a worldwide church with at best, which under prime conditions, you're not hitting 17 million. The Catholics can claim 1.5 billion people. That is huge. There's only 8 billion people on the planet. So when your best defense is going, look at this other church, it does not instill confidence that you are going to be able to look at this
Also, it falls flat for me. Like, look at all the creeps they have over there. And I'm like, look at the creeps you got over there.
Right.
Why are we defending the creeps? Like, hello?
Period.
Like, yeah, it's a problem over there. It's a problem over here. It's a problem everywhere that it
Problem
happens.
everywhere.
But you deflecting onto another religious organization who maybe it happens more to because they have higher numbers. Like,
Yeah. They also
It's
have
deflection.
monumentally more people, period.
because then you just go, but the Catholics, and then you walk away from the conversation, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, nothing gets resolved at that point. You don't have to look inward at that point. You don't have to change things. Like, it's
You
just, well,
You don't have to consider that maybe it's not so exceptional when it's occurring at least the same rate, if not disproportionately more, because there's fewer members.
To hide the tragedies. And I think, and for understandable reasons, but I think if we could really just see maybe what God sees and understand the things that people are going through, even just next door, it would blow our minds.
How did people help you feel seen as you did uncover this truth? The documentary shows you, for me, which was one of the most heartbreaking and powerful parts of it, is showing the footage of when you find out, when it's revealed to you what's been going on with your wife and your children. I know you've commented to me that there were people that really showed up for you in really magnificent ways.
Mm-hmm.
How did some of those people do it? Like, who did it right?
Yeah, well,
Because that's something we can all learn of, like, when someone's really hurting, here's things that I can do to show up. Because so often we're like, I don't know, and unfortunately we pull away because we're afraid of doing the wrong thing, or we feel unequal to the task, and that can create more isolation for that person in the challenge.
yeah, for sure. And there's other factors too. In my case, as I was living in separation, trying to follow the program that was set out for me by my then therapist, Jody Hildebrandt, that was very, very abusive.
The program was very abusive.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it really promoted isolationism, even though the program would say, no, you need to focus on optimism, and you need to focus on positive thinking, and you need to
Like progression, right? Was the sense I got.
The words would say that, but the actions didn't match the words, and it was very, very, I'll call it denigrating. It was very abusive of an environment, and more, as where I was literally in a situation where it's like, comply with what Jody's saying and believe everything she's saying about me, which were terrible, awful things, or lose your marriage and your family. It's one or the other. What
Yeah,
are
the
you gonna
stakes
pick?
are so high.
And so, like, for me, the only thing that I could think about in that time was getting my family back, getting my kids back, getting my wife back. And I truly came to believe that I was the problem. In following that program and following the advice you would give, I had to cut people out of my life. And good friends and people who loved me were constantly trying to blow the whistle, say, open your eyes, look what's going on, this is crazy. And the way it's framed to me is like, oh, of course they're saying that because they're uncomfortable, because you're doing the things that are hard. You're doing the things that they should be doing, but they don't want to. And so
frighteningly similar, in my opinion, to the way that Mormonism handles people who don't believe. Like, Jody might have taken that and like amplified
This
it to a
is-
crazy degree, but this is just like
It's the same
how to deal
playbook.
with people who have left the church 101.
You are to repeat their little refrains of doubt your doubt before you doubt your faith.
They'll never be actually happy.
They'll never be happy.
They just
They're
don't get it.
lazy learners and lax disciples. They
Mhm.
never understood. They never had a true testimony. These are the things that people say about people like us who decided to leave.
Mhm.
And it works for
It works.
a large percentage of people, because all you have, it's called thought stopping, right? All you have to do is
Turn it off.
they don't know what they're talking about. They didn't learn. They
No
didn't listen to
critical
general
thinking
conference.
needed.
Right.
Shut
They
it
didn't pray
down.
hard enough. They didn't
Yeah.
have, these spiritual experiences. They didn't have the spirit with them. They were masturbating. They're watching pornography. They can't have the spirit with them. So
But I think this is why our like hypothesis from day one has been Ruby and Jody took something that is already foundational to Mormonism and then exploited it to an insane degree. Like, yes,
Right.
Jody and Ruby took it to like extreme.
Well, there's a reason why the
Levels, but-
clientele, outside of being based in Utah, the
Yeah.
clientele was
Very Mormon.
primarily
Because it
Mormon.
fits. It feels familiar. It feels like, oh, I already do this. Oh, this feels comfortable for me. These aren't like brash new ideas. These are things that I'm already familiar with and incorporate in my daily life, which is why we have said from day one, you cannot remove the Mormonism from this case because the Mormonism in this tragedy is foundational to why it happened.
Want you to come back and be like them. It's a cycle of enabling.
Wow.
That's how it was framed. And
Ooh, that's some pretty intense gaslighting.
and so it's like either cut them out or this is evidence that you're not safe and your wife will act accordingly. So yeah, I was cutting people out, and that hurt a lot of people's feelings. They were very, very angry with me. And the reason I'm giving you all this backstory
Yeah, please.
is so that it puts into perspective. On August 30th, 2023, my life turned upside down. That was the day that everything came to light, that my kids were rescued by police, that my wife was arrested, that my therapist was arrested. And all of this was dumped on me in the middle of a police interrogation. And
Side note, but this is exactly why in many cases police are not qualified to handle these kinds of situations, because regardless of the role that you think that Kevin played in this, and we would both argue that there's a role here, regardless of that, just dumping all this information on him in a 5-minute span in a like interrogation isolated police room where he doesn't know where his kids are, what the is happening, he has no clue what's going on. Like, there is not a single aspect of that is like trauma informed in any way. Way. And this is generally speaking, unless people have additional training or unless there's like social workers on staff with police, like this is generally what happens. And we do like situational trauma. We add to the trauma that's already being experienced by way of how he's being introduced to these things. Like, I can think of probably 30 things that did not happen in this conversation that he was not given that probably were not appropriate and probably magnified the intensity and the trauma that he was experiencing at the time. So like, let this be just a side note of how important it is to have people within mental health factored into how we introduce material and things to people who are in custody, right? Like, Kevin hadn't even done anything wrong, and yet he's still, we'll say anything wrong in this situation, but he's still
Presumably.
suffering the consequences because of the way that the information is being given.
yeah, and so to say that my universe collapsed around me in the matter of a few hours is probably an understatement. I went.
And to further my point, he just went home. Like, he gets all this information dumped. His therapist is in jail. His wife is in jail. His kids are in state custody at the hospital. Like, and then
Right.
you just
Go home.
drive home. Like, what do you, and this is the very least of the issues that I have with our carceral system at large, but this is a very good example because there's no helping people in this situation. He needs an actual therapist. He needs actual
Right.
support. He needs like a whole lot of things that he was probably not given to cope with this information, because this is a crisis period. Somebody given information like that would put any normal human being in crisis. And so this person should be responded to with a crisis team. Yes, that includes mental health professionals. Yes, that might include medication. Yes, that might include a lot of things, but our system is not structured to give that to anyone.
Right.
Really.
Well, and if they're paying for all these things, who's going to pay for the tanks, Jordan, that the police need?
We got a war machine to run,
But
don't
for
we?
real, like, this was, if I were in his situation, I'm exiled from my family. I have to live alone. I'm isolating myself from my friends. And then I come to find out that my children were in the hospital because of what my wife and my therapist did to them. I'd drive off a fucking bridge.
Well, this is what
And then
I
all of a
mean.
sudden, now the police have fewer people to help them with an investigation.
Well, now these poor children have lost their father, and nobody
Right.
knows how he was feeling in those moments. But it's a situation like that where I would be, this is why I would call it a crisis situation, because I would be concerned about ideation at that point. I would be concerned about somebody's willingness to stay on the planet, given the information that they've just been handed to them, because that's just going to flood the nervous system. And who knows what happens in those moments. There's a lot of impulsivity. Does he have access to a firearm? Like, there's a lot of considerations that I would want to be making if I had, like, if I were involved in this scenario, so that we can ensure his safety and him being able to get access to the resources that he needs and the resources that his kids need. And our system, unfortunately, would rather spend money on other
Tanks for the police.
For months and months. Total isolation. I mean, if I got 2 text messages a week, that was a busy week for me.
Were you still working during that?
Mm-hmm.
Virtually?
No, I would go and I would teach my classes, but as soon as
Okay.
I was done with my obligations, I was immediately.
So you were still teaching at BYU during that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was immediately locked away in my office, or I'd go back to the townhome I was renting.
Mm-hmm.
Complete isolation was the prescription for my healing, and so I was in that type of environment where it was me and my thoughts, versus now, after August 30th, the world just went bananas. And I had
Now you have everybody's
paparazzi
thoughts.
hiding in my bushes. I had paparazzi camping out on my neighbor's lawn. I had people following me everywhere. My phone would not
And you
stop
have you have little
ringing.
kids to take care of and protect from this too. That's a lot.
Well, yeah, but not at
He didn't have them then.
Yeah.
Hello?
the time, because part of this tragedy was my kids were taken from me.
Right.
And so, that was part of my universe just collapsing around me. And so that transition from complete silence to a freaking circus, like that was intense. And I struggled a lot with it. And so you asked a question about people who rose to the occasion.
Yeah.
These were people who genuinely care about me and love me. These were people that I had hurt because I cut them off. I said, "You're lying to me. I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to believe my wife and my therapist instead of you." That's and so they were justifiably angry with me. But what amazed me was how easily they let it go. And they didn't care. They rushed to my aid. They showed up at my house. And the house was just a disaster. I mean, what my ex-wife hadn't done to damage the house, the police certainly did. And it was a mess, and the thermostat was broken, and the door had a 3-foot hole in it, and
We talk a lot about like the agonies of what was happening in Jody's Ivan's home. But I think
Compound.
Yeah.
Let's call it like it is.
but
It's like
what was happening in Ruby's home remains a
Real.
bit of a mystery. Because a lot of time the kids were there by themselves. The thermostat
Mhm.
broken makes complete and utter sense to me. Anything to make those kids more uncomfortable makes total sense in their world. But that's an interesting part of this case that I don't know that we'll ever know the answer to. Because Kevin went back into the house after all of this
Yeah.
happened.
have reporters just swarming every inch of the house, coming up to every door, every window, knocking. It was terrifying.
knocking is crazy work.
And
Media is crazy here.
they just came in, and they just brought boxes of pizza. And one of them got to work fixing the thermostat. One of them got to work sweeping the floors. One of them got to work straightening up my bedroom and cleaning off the bed so I could sleep. I hadn't slept for 4 days by the time I returned back to the house.
Crisis. Hear me say it again. Crisis. not sleeping for 4 days, we are in
Right.
extremely dangerous territory, mental health wise, for a variety of things. But isn't this such a lovely illustration of generally, to their credit, how Mormons respond when people
Well,
struggle?
I feel like this is they are they are prepared to be
They
able
are
to
the
just
fixers.
respond, and they know generally what people need. So I
They
do
will just do
like
it.
that. But it's not
That's not
and it's
unique
not
to
anything.
Mormons.
It's kind of disappointing that we're like, oh, I hurt these people because they were trying to tell me the truth, and this awful thing, which they were like, something weird is going on here. This awful thing happens, and it's like some miraculous thing that they just dropped that and were able to come to someone's aid. Like, I feel like, are we so far gone in society that people think that someone would hold a grudge when they find out this awful thing that they were trying to warn about actually does happen?
Well, yeah, I feel like it would be really easy. I mean, obviously,
Right.
I would be hurt by something like this, but I feel like it would be not necessarily easy, but I feel like it would be easier to forgive knowing like the extent of the
Like, right.
brainwashing, the extent
Like,
of what was
I was
happening.
trying to warn you, and you obviously didn't see
You
it.
ain't seeing it. I'm not going to be mad at you for that because once you come out of it, like, you know, hopefully that you do,
Mhm.
we're like, you're going to be mortified. You're going to be so embarrassed. And like, I'm not going to contribute to that. Like, I'm just
Right.
going to show up and support you because, like, yeah, that's embarrassing.
So, I mean, I was beyond just fumes at that point. No questions asked, no explanations demanded, none of that.
Yeah,
And
not you owe me an apology. You owe me an
no, there was nothing but genuine Christian love and service.
I was gonna say, I don't know if I've ever heard a better, just like religion in action. This is what it looks like.
Yeah.
As you move.
That's what forgiveness looks like. And it doesn't mean that we didn't talk about those things later.
But the timing,
It was just not the time.
being aware of the timing.
Yeah. But there were certainly questions
Yeah.
that needed to be addressed and things that we needed to talk about, and we did when the time was right.
But they extended you the grace to say, that can be shelved right now. We need to sleep. We need
Yeah.
to eat.
Yep, exactly. I had lost 25% of my body weight over that year.
Do you know what, like,
Sheesh.
are you
Well,
comfortable
I lost
sharing?
45 pounds in 1 year.
Wow.
And so,
Such
Trauma.
an engineer. I lost 25% of my body weight. Crazy.
Very pragmatic.
I was a mess
Yeah.
in
course.
every sense of the word.
Yeah.
And they literally fed me. They literally did my shopping for me. It was really neat to see my neighborhood rally around me, and they all started coordinating. They started like a group chat, coordinating how they were going to punk the journalists and
Most Mormon shit I've ever heard. Getting on board in a community sense to do something like that, like, yeah, that one thing that Mormons are
I know.
phenomenally great at is organizing community related things. They are generally exceptional in that area.
they would play pranks on them and just try to make their lives
These are
as
my kind of
miserable
people.
as
Uh-huh.
possible. I'll just share one story. It
Please,
was too
please.
funny. I can't even remember who it was, but they set their camera up across the street and getting a house shot. And, you know, their journalist was standing right there in front of the screen. And my neighbor, Patty, drove up in her, like her Suburban and pulled up right in the camera shot and rolled down the window and said, "Hey, why are you filming my house?" And they stopped and they said, "Wait, wait." And she's like, "That's my house."
They're like, you
And-
don't look like Ruby Franke.
and she texted me and said, "Open up your garage door." So I, you know, remotely opened the
Oh,
garage
so that
door.
it's like-
And so
That's actually
she's like,
funny.
"See,
I love this so
That's
much.
genius.
it's my house. I just opened the garage door." And they were like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and apologized and took their cameras down. and they drove off, and then you see them drive back, and they were really mad. But I mean, it was stuff like that.
That's
right?
funny.
I mean, it was so crazy that I couldn't even step out of the house without being like just mauled by cameras and microphones and people. It was like, well, I don't know what they're hoping to see. So, but I couldn't even go to the grocery
Like, are you still a
store.
mess? You still, right? 45 pounds. Like, what is there?
Yeah. And so they would go to the grocery store and they
Oh
would
my
bring
gosh.
sacks of groceries, and they would, you know, they were texting me the whole time, and they'd leave it right out in front of the garage door, and all the people with the cameras would line up, And
To
then,
see you like get your groceries?
and then I'd open the garage door just a foot and reach my hand under and grab the bags and pull them in. And, you know, because they all just wanted
Just like shock.
a shot. Yeah. And so
That's really
they were
hard.
just amazing the way that they circled the wagons around me. And of course, you know, reporters were all trying to interview them to get them to say, you know, salacious things and
Something damning,
something
probably.
damning, something dirty, something that attracts clicks.
Yep.
You know,
For sure.
and my neighbors just told them where to go, and that was really neat. That was neat, and I still feel that way. They are so protective of me. As soon as someone comes driving into my neighborhood that the people don't recognize, I mean, the text makes its rounds, you know, and yeah, it's,
I mean, I know journalists have a job and shit, and I'm hoping the people
Right.
he's describing are like rags, like the, you know, the Daily,
Daily
Mail,
Mail
and like
and-
people we would expect this behavior from. Not that that makes it any better, but I'm hoping it's not like reputable journalists that are doing this kind of behavior. But like covering this case for as long as we had, even though like we lived in Utah, we did not live far from Springville. Like it is a very short drive to Springville, and the entirety of the time that we have been involved in covering the Frankies before anything was even criminal, it never occurred to me to drive by their house or to like
That's-
park outside their house. That is
Right.
crazy to me.
That's touching the poop.
That's touching the poop.
That is like tabloid
Crazy.
people who are doing shit like that.
But it's
'cause-
not like, and I'm sure people do it. I'm sure like there are
Yeah.
probably crazy true crime people that do it. Like I just don't, it has never, like even living there and living not far from the Frankies, it was never something that even crossed my mind.
so be careful if you ever come
Don't
over.
go. You've answered some of this already, but how do you feel like those kind of actions, those people seeing you, directly improved your mental health and your level to keep going, to be resilient at a time when, like you said, your world falling apart? I don't know how you said it, but it's like the greatest understatement, right? I don't even know if there's words for that. How did that improve your mental health and your resilience in time, which I know you're still rebuilding? How could you not be? But how's
Sure.
it helped?
Yeah, it's a lifelong process, but
For sure.
But no, it's come along a long ways, and I would say that I've learned, for example, there's a phrase that it's common, and a lot of people have probably heard it. I hadn't; it was new to me, but it made a lot of sense to me, and it explained a lot of things. And it's the phrase, "Hurt people hurt people," and I hurt a lot of people by, you know, cutting them out, shutting them out, pushing them away. And the reality was I wasn't a bad person. I was a scared person. I was a panicked person. I was a hurt person. And it's helped me to understand that when somebody else does something that upsets me or offends me or hurts me, the first thing I ask now is, I wonder what that person's going through. I wonder how that person is hurt, or in what ways they're hurt that would cause them to act in that way towards me.
Because you feel like that's why you cut people out.
Exactly.
You were hurting, and so this was the best choice in the condition you were in.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense.
Exactly. And it's allowed me to develop a real sense of compassion and grace for people, which I think has gone a long ways in helping my overall health, because I'm not so uptight. I think one of the reasons we get so stressed and uptight is we want people to act or behave in a certain way. And when they don't behave or act in a certain way, we get upset. Or we want the world to be acting, or the politicians to be acting in a certain way. And when they don't, we get upset and we want to control it.
Is he in therapy?
I don't know why he brings up the politicians thing, because there's absolutely valid crash outs to be had
Yeah,
about
yeah.
what politicians are doing. But
This is
I
very
digress.
therapy like talk around like, you know, sometimes
Real
we cause
therapy.
sometimes we cause our own suffering because we're holding so tightly to other people's behavior, or, you know, things that, you know, other people aren't doing, where you get in trouble is like, you know, I can't control what other people do, but I can control the distress that I have around what other people are doing and what are my options if this continues to happen. And, you know, that's like a whole thing. But this is interesting to me because this is like therapy-y without like the, you know, the therapy language that everybody kind of talks about.
And you can't. And the more you freak out about it, and the more you stress about it, and the more you try to assign motives of like, oh, that person's evil. Oh, that person is this or this or this. That's why they're doing this. At the end of the day, the person that's hurting the most from all of that is yourself.
Yep.
And I felt that. I felt, that stress and that increased blood pressure and that worry and that anger.
It's exhausting.
That anger.
Well, living with Ruby, I don't know how you wouldn't. Because
Right.
Ruby's about the most, holding the rope so hard her fingers are bleeding to maintain control type of person. And if you live with a person like that and you're trying to minimize damage, you eventually just learn to go along with whatever they're doing to minimize harm to yourself, right? So it wouldn't surprise me if he got very used to kind of existing in Ruby's stratosphere, and what causes the most limited amount of damage to himself is to just go along with whatever crazy bullshit she's saying, which is probably why he went along with some of the crazy bullshit she said. Right or wrong, that's probably what it is. But I imagine it would take some time to go from a shift of I'm being controlled so tightly constantly to I can do whatever I want and nobody's telling me what to do, and I don't have hours of therapy to go to, and I don't have to isolate myself 7 days a week. And that's a really big gap. That's a really big transition to make from complete and utter control to total freedom. That's a really big jump.
Well, and I remember, more to your point, I remember maybe it was from Sherry's book, an instance where basically Ruby was blowing up on Sherry or something like that over dinner or something. She ended up going to bed without eating dinner, and then he snuck her a bowl of ice cream or something. So it was just a waiting out the storm kind of thing so he could do his little covert.
I had a mom
addition.
like that, and everybody essentially just kind of learns how to exist around their mood, their volatility, their hostility, their unpredictable behavior. Everybody just kind of walks around eggshells trying to manage it and doing what they can to exist in that environment. But I'm sure, even though it's a good thing that he's not living life like that anymore, I imagine it would take his brain a minute to be I'm not being punished for anything. Ruby's not dictating my time, effort, and energy anymore. I can do what I want. That's a really hard transition.
Was just consuming. And to be able now to just let it go and be able to say, wow, I wonder what that person is going through.
It's really valuable.
It allows me to let go of it and realize I can't control that.
It's interesting. It's kind of a theme of radical acceptance that I've been thinking a lot about again in my life. I know you talked about dropping episode numbers, but I believe it's episode 80. My sister passed away from cancer. She was diagnosed at 31 and died at 38.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I'm so
left 6
sorry.
little kids, the ones just under the brother, Amy, and a lot of my listeners know that because
That's hard.
it is really hard. She's my best friend. It was really, really hard. And a couple thoughts. I love to see patterns of truth as we do these interviews, and often I feel like it is sometimes.
Why are we saying shit like
Stop!
that? Oh my God.
Stop!
Through really earth-shattering, huge challenges that truth reveals itself, because a lot of distractions just have to go away to survive. And on episode 80, she'd done an episode before that, but on episode 80, she actually had volunteered and said, hey, what if we did this, talked about this, because it's something I've had to learn as I'm dying from cancer, and it's called giving up control. And it's all about what you just talked about. What do I have control of? Kind of the serenity prayer. What do I have control of, and what are other people going through, and what does my anxiety, my anger about these things change anything? Does it hurt me more? And it's a really beautiful conversation, but I find it interesting that for her, that's her life falling apart, and what becomes really clear is, here's what I can control, here's what I can't, and the rest is pretty exhausting and actually just keeping me from finding and acknowledging the happiness that exists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's well said. And who better to teach it than somebody who's going through something as devastating as,
Well, and I would say you as well. The perspective, and I know you talked about in the beginning, and you told me this over dinner, you're still healing, you still, right? Your story is currently happening, which is why I appreciate you coming so much. And I'm also so grateful for your really raw perspective right now in the healing process of this is what's working.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, I'm happy to share some things that have worked and helped me.
Because let's be honest, like no one can relate perfectly. None of us can say, I know what you've been through, because do you have the same birth order? Do you have the same genetics? Do you have the same spouse? There's just no way. I've never heard that phrase and actually felt super seen when someone says, I know what you're going through my divorce, through the childhood trauma, through, my sister passing away. That phrase is actually, I know people mean well and I don't feel upset at them. It's something we say, but I've never felt really seen and validated when someone says, I know what you've been through.
Yeah, I know.
My response is, you just really don't.
Do people say that? I don't know. I've never said that to anybody because it just seems like a silly thing to say.
I don't, especially as a therapist. I generally don't. Like, I feel like it is I
or
feel
even
like
understanding.
placed well in maybe a very specific situation, I could see that. But like, I don't know. There's a lot of discussion around Mormons, especially, don't know how to handle grief, because a lot of Mormons don't grieve properly because of the religious context really never allows for kind of a completion. And this is controversial. You don't have to agree with me on this. But that's part of it, is I think, and this isn't just Mormons, I think we as a society have a really hard time figuring out what to say when people are struggling or when people are having a hard time. Like, you don't want to say something that's offensive or rude or like dismisses it, because like, Mormons are really good at saying things like, oh, well, God must have needed them back. And that's like, that's so painful for the people that are in it, that are like, okay, the loving God that I worship took my kid away and said I need him more than you. Like, that just, it's not clocking to me. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, like, that's not.
It's not clocking to you. I'm standing on business.
It's not. And so it's things like that I think people just say, versus, I tell people all the time, if you're not sure what to say, it's okay to say that. Like, it's okay to say, these circumstances are so tough. Like, I want to say the right things to you, but I don't even know what that is. So I'm just going to sit with you in this moment and tell you that I'm here for you. Like, sometimes that's more powerful than some eloquent thing that you can come up with, or like talking to chat GPT about it. Don't do that.
Jordan Therapy Corner.
Something horrific. If you said to me, Julie, I know what you've been through, I'd be like, no, you don't. However, suffering is suffering is suffering. There's something to understanding what it feels like to suffer and to lose everything that you thought you knew. I think that is an emotion a lot of us can relate on, depending on our life experiences. Yeah. And why I have related so much to your perspective and thoughts, and even in the documentary, because it's like, no one is going to ever relate to the specifics of your story.
No.
Like, you would feel alone
Let's
forever.
hope not.
If you could only hang out with people.
But it could happen to anybody,
this happen,
right?
You trusted a therapist, right? All these things happen, and now you're like, you would have no friends. You would never trust anyone again, right? But what we can relate to is the feeling of when life falls apart, like rebuilding. Okay, what do I know? What truths am I finding? How can we see each other in that? We don't need to understand what it feels, what it's exactly like, but knowing what it feels like to not have the confidence to tie your own shoes or take a shower or things like that.
But yeah, I realized, for me, I came to see my experience as like a metaphor of it. To me, it felt like I was thrown off of a boat or a raft into this wild river, like a flood. And it felt out of control. It was scary. I kept going under and popping up and getting a breath and going under again. And everything I was doing was just don't drown.
But I would imagine during this, you're still not focused on making so much forward progression even.
At that point, all of your carefully crafted plans for your life and everything go right out the window. And I think that's one of the most common elements of suffering. Is dealing with the disappointment of an unmet expectation or a plan that you made that fell apart. And that's hard. That's hard to accept something that wasn't in your plan. And that was really hard for me, and for a long time. In fact, I was diagnosed with that, with called an adjustment disorder. I didn't know what that was, but it's a psychological
Did they just create
term.
it specifically for you? Or is that
No, it's an actual psychological term that is somebody who is really struggling with
So this is common. This is common if we don't, especially if we don't want to give somebody like a long-term diagnosis, like, anxiety, depression, especially if there's not been a history of those kinds of things before. Adjustment is kind of like a nice little in-betweener we're talking about. But in order to diagnose adjustment disorder, generally speaking, we have to have a precipitating event that the person has responded to with what we would call marked distress. So we're looking for something that is causing like more stress than normal, like, divorces, death of a child, like very intense events. And lots of people will make justifications for adjustment disorder because sometimes it's nice to have that versus like a diagnosis that you carry with you for the rest of your life. Because adjustment disorder, generally speaking, is temporary. Like we're looking for something that is not going to last forever. It's not like depression where it's going to recur. Like this is like a one-time kind of thing, might last for a few months. If it's lasting longer than that, then we might be looking at like a single episode depression. But this makes a lot of sense to me because if I was looking at him as a therapist, that would probably be the first place that I would go is like, we have marked distress to a horrendous event. And where do we even begin?
An event, a life event, and they just are struggling adjusting to it.
Just big change.
It's a real thing, and it's very, very common. And if someone out there is listening who, it could be anything, lost a job, lost a friend, lost a sister, lost a spouse, went through divorce, was just diagnosed with cancer. Even something as, like trying to sell a house and it fell through. I mean, maybe not that last one. Usually adjustment disorder is more for like the major things.
Yeah.
The stuff that you...
But going bankrupt, like financial, so many...
That you don't get back, right?
Yeah.
If you're struggling with a life event like that, you're not weird. There's nothing wrong with you.
What if like 5 of them happen within 2 years?
Well, that, and I think we unnecessarily, like, the DSM is not my best friend. I think it serves its purpose. But I think we unnecessarily, like, pathologize things that don't necessarily need to pathologize. Like, you look at somebody in Kevin's shoes, and you're gonna see some mental health symptoms. Like, of course you're going to see that. Like, whether you like it or not, the nervous system is going to be responding. The brain is going to be responding. Like, generally speaking, the average person probably would qualify for multiple adjustment disorder periods throughout their life. But I can see why, especially if you're unfamiliar with it or you don't want something heavy like, depression or anxiety and you don't meet those kind of like lifelong disorder criteria, I can see how somebody looking at those experiences and telling you, yes, there is something here. Like, this is valid, this is real, this is substantial, it's a thing that people go through. And there's not necessarily the stigma attached to it like there is male depression or like there is other male mental health disorders, which are generally more stigmatized than women's mental health disorders sometimes. So not all the time, but I think that's an important consideration to be made here. So if you've had a hard life event in your life at some point, you've probably met the criteria for adjustment disorder.
That was my case. That was my case.
We should talk more. And like, I don't know, obviously, like we said, I know what you're going through, but man, the list, there's moments in life where it's like, whew, do you have time to process one after the other? Yours kind of imploded. It became realized in a moment.
Yeah, it came to a point and exploded. It was like a supernova. And where like a pinpoint of matter explodes into a universe of energy, right? I mean, that's what my event really felt like. And
you also spoke to there being a little bit, if I remember right, a little bit of relief, just in that all of a sudden, like 2 + 2 = 4. I don't know that that's the equation. You probably used a much smarter engineer equation, but that's how I processed it, at least, of just that all of a sudden it's like it makes sense and it's horrific. There's no judgment on that it's not horrific. But this makes sense why things have been so confusing.
Yeah. And I would apply this specifically to anybody who's been in an abusive relationship on the other side of a gaslighter.
Yep.
You know exactly what I mean when I say 2 + 2 = 7. And for years, months, decades even, you try to convince yourself that 2 + 2 = 7. You really try to convince yourself. And you come to believe it. And that was certainly the case for me. But when things started unfolding beginning on August 30th, 2023, and as I started listening and looking at the evidence and looking at the facts and just processing it and thinking about it. Started at first to hear someone say, maybe. And this is good advice, by the way, for anyone who's out
Please.
there. You're wanting to help and support someone who's in an abusive relationship. Please do not go up to them and be like, hey, 2 + 2 = 4.
And explain why.
Yeah, because, I mean, you got to remember that this individual who's on the other side of gaslighting has tremendous love for the person
Yep.
that is gaslighting them. And they are doing everything they know how to keep that relationship alive and healthy. And the last thing they want to hear,
And they're not ready for it.
right, the last thing they want to hear is that the person that, you know, they love is nefarious or, you know.
Because what do you do with that? I have had some situations in my life, and even people apologize to me later for what they couldn't see. And how I've responded is, I don't think I would have believed you even if you had seen and told me.
Yeah.
Like I would have seen, maybe if someone comes up and says 2 + 2 = 4, you actually dismiss them really quickly because you're like, that's insane, because it feels so extreme.
Yeah. And you're
To
like,
which
no, 2
maybe
+
what
2
you're
=
getting
7.
to is the maybe.
Yeah. So what my friends did, and I really appreciate this, and I don't know if they've had training in this, but they sure did
Feel
it in a
free
good
to
way.
take a drink. I need a drink.
I'll go for it.
Probably should be drinking water, but it's a Diet Coke conversation.
Is, you know, they didn't try to push their views onto me. They were very careful to give me the space and the time I needed to process things. And they allowed me to ask the questions. They didn't have an agenda. They didn't have,
This is after August 30th, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
they didn't have some like plan of like, okay, we got to convince him of this and this. It was like, they were just patient. And you know, with my ex in jail,
Yeah.
and I'm home alone, and my kids are in state custody, and I'm just a mess. I mean, I'd look in the mirror and I would see the physical evidence that I was sick. And my friends then, they would wait for me to come and just say something like, I just don't understand. I don't understand. And then they would say, well, have you considered this? Have you considered this? And they would just put a little, you know, nugget or a crumb out there that then I could kind of pick up, look at, and taste and be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
It's kind of like there's that Berenstain Bears book. For some reason, I always remember in Papa Bear, he's trying to decide if it's honey. He's like, it smells like honey, it tastes like honey, it feels like honey, it sounds like honey, like the buzzing there. Like maybe it is honey, but no one can convince him that it's honey except for he has to test it out.
Yeah.
But like taking you to the honey tree of like, let's just see, and then kind of backing up and letting you
Yeah.
invest in the truth for yourself.
What it is. It's exactly what it is. You know,
It's crazy to watch someone who's still part of the Mormon Church explain what process deconstruction is, and they're still part of the Mormon Church. And obviously, it comes off like I'm a fucking hater, because I mean I am. But like this is very similar to the process that when we were deconstructing from the church, it's the same process that we were going through. Like, there were things that you could have never convinced me about the Mormon Church. And then all of a sudden, values have been shifted and things aren't adding up. And I'm like, this is odd.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I find a post on r/ex-Mormon that never would have resonated with me. I would have just been like, that's anti-Mormon lie.
Yeah.
And now I'm looking for answers in places that maybe I hadn't considered it before.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, a lot of people will be like, what can I tell the missionaries to wake them up? Or what can you can't.
You can't.
That's always my response. And it's really hard to see in r/ex-Mormon specifically. You see this a lot where people are like, what can I respond to these people? Like, the conversation is not going to be productive in a lot of these circumstances, because exactly what Kevin is describing is what they're going through. they have already made up their minds that 2 plus 2 equals 7.
Mm-hmm.
And you coming in and saying, well, 2 plus 2 is actually 4 is not helpful. And a lot of times it's going to have a backfire effect where they're like, okay, well, I can't talk to you anymore because you don't know that 2 plus 2 actually equals 7.
Yeah.
So I hate the Mormonism cannot be separated from this because there are too many parallels because it's just a derivative work of Mormonism.
Yep, it is.
There's a lot of opinions out there around this word brainwashing, right? And there's like a pop culture version of what brainwashing is or looks like. We see it in the movies.
I'd say gaslighting too, a little bit.
Yeah, but that's my point, is that there are millions and millions of people out there who are being brainwashed on certain things. Through gaslighting, through manipulation, through an abusive partner, and they don't even realize it. And what people need to understand is that it's almost like a diver that you're bringing out of deep sea diving. You don't bring them up and then bring them back to like the surface immediately because their system can't handle that change. They get the bends, right? So there's this process of depressurization, and it takes time. They have to slowly
Such a great analogy.
depressurize. And it's the same with somebody who's been in an abusive relationship, somebody who's been gaslighted for years. They at first, it's like, nope, 2 plus 2 is 7. And if you want to be a good friend, you don't argue with them, you don't push back, you just say, I get it. I totally understand. And then you just love them. And then as, you know, they continue to process and see more evidences, pretty soon they may say, I'm really struggling with 2 plus 2 equals 7. It doesn't make sense.
I'm starting to
me.
question it a little.
Yeah. And that's your cue to be able to say, yeah, well, do you want to talk about it? And here's something that I've seen.
It's gold.
And you just slowly introduce new ideas and allow them at their pace and their willingness to process it. Because it hurts. It hurts like hell when you come to realize that, one, you've been manipulated, you've been lied to, you've been tricked, you've been abused by someone that you love.
And that's the kicker, I think, is that last piece, that and that question on the documentary where I was really hit when they said, do you still love her? And you were like, of course.
Yeah.
That's if someone was mean to you all the time, if someone was unkind to you all the time, it'd be a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But when it's someone it's not like that all the time, and it hasn't been like that all the time.
No, it's not.
It's really painful and confusing.
It totally is.
Yeah.
And it's so important for people who want to support somebody in that situation to understand that. You can't change them. You can't control them. You can't fix your friend.
And the intentions are good.
Yeah,
you want to save
absolutely.
them, right? Out of a burning house.
Absolutely.
I think it's important to note that I think, like, while watching all of this pan out, like, I feel like for a long time, most of us were, at least many of us, were very speculative about Kevin getting to a point where he could acknowledge that Ruby was doing these things that were, like, abusive by definition. Like, I think that answer clashes with what people see when he says, like, well, do you still love Ruby? And he says, yes. I think people don't think that those two things can coexist. I think I see what Kevin's describing as he is in love with loves the version of Ruby who is not a monster, who was maybe kind for 5 minutes, or was normal to a degree until they started family blogging, or like wasn't
before they had kids,
a raging, intense control freak. Like, you know, there were probably periods of their life that he loved, but that does not mean that is her full. But I think that is important to identify, because I think it brings some peace to me to know that Kevin can look at Ruby's behavior now and sees a problem, sees an issue, sees abuse. Because when you are deep in the brainwashing, when you're deep into like cult tactic type behavior, when you're deep into those things, people worry about whether they'll ever be able to separate from what they've been told because they have so much investment in 2 + 2 = 7. It feels like there's sunk fallacy in getting
Right.
rid of, like, oh my God, 2 + 2 = 7, sunk costs. Like, I've been adding 2 + 2 = 7 for like 40 years, and I've told everybody about it, and I've convinced everybody
Right.
about it, and like, it's a lot to be able to do all of that and then be able to walk away and go, no, it doesn't. Like, no, it doesn't.
Totally.
Like, that's significant, I think.
But they need to come at their own pace.
Mm-hmm.
They need to dictate the pace. And you need to be a safe space for them to be able to begin to believe in the things that you're going to share with them. Because otherwise, they're just going to see you as being part of the problem, not, again, the other individual who's actually doing the abuse.
Yep, because you're much more committed to the other individual in situations like this often, or else you wouldn't be so easily manipulated, right? Like if it's a cashier at the store trying to have you see a certain therapist, right? Like that's not get a hold the same way as someone you love and you trust and you have babies with and all the things.
Right.
It's a completely different animal.
It is completely different.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And this is also part of the reason why, like the media verse, I'll call it. It's just the universe of the media. Everyone on social media, everyone in popular media, everyone in the mainstream media, they try to simplify everything down to basic black and white labels of heroes and villains.
Yep.
And so
because it's painful, I think, for people not to.
Yeah.
Then it couldn't, because if it's black and white, then it could never happen to them.
Right. I agree with that. And I also think that comic book heroes and villains sell. And so they try to portray everybody as either hero or villain. And I wish they would stop that. Because really what I've come to learn in life is that even the people we call villains, something inside of them is broken. Hurt people hurt people. And they are seeing the world through a different lens. And it's a broken lens. They need help. They don't need to be
But it is their
attacked and
reality.
loved. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And with my
I feel like on this channel, I feel like hopefully the perception is we've done a decent job of this, where we try to look at things from the not black and white perspective. And I think the irony of Kevin talking about this is he's literally describing Mormonism. Like, most things in Mormonism are very black and white. It's sinful or it's not, it's right or it's wrong. Like, the gray area is where Mormonism gets in trouble, is because people start to look at the gray area and they don't like the answers that are there or not there in the gray area, and then that causes a lot of distress. So it's very interesting to hear him talk about something that is very much akin to the deconstruction process, but he's going through that just in isolation with one aspect of his life and not extending that out to a religious experience, which again makes sense because this is what people rely on. This is what makes people feel comfortable. This is what makes people feel safe and understood and at peace with things that they can't control. Like, I'm not here to demonize religion, but it's interesting to me because the process is essentially the same, but there is one aspect of this that he seems unwilling to reckon with, or maybe he is and he's just unwilling to do it publicly. I don't know. But
and just to reiterate this kind of idea, he's coming from a framework where his wife was enabled to do criminal, awful things to their children and not see anything wrong with it. And so when his landing spot is what he grew up in and knows and loved for such a long time, it makes a lot of sense to me that is comfortable and he's not going to apply those kinds of thinkings to that because it hasn't failed him in the past. All the failings have come from what Jody introduced to their relationships, their parenting, and all of those things.
But doesn't that fit so nicely into that box?
Exactly. Now? It's like, okay, well,
I don't
know. It's kind of just this extra sinister layer of like.
It's like a protective layer.
Yeah, kind of a
because you don't have to
layer.
Examine it any deeper because Why do they got these
fucking names that are so hard to say?
What Jody and Ruby did was like what Mormons would say is like a bastardization of Mormonism. So if you want, especially if you wanted to keep your faith, it would be really easy to
Right.
walk away from this and go, wow, this is religious extremism, and not look at any of the nuggets that might still be in this experience, even
Right.
if it doesn't fit into Jody and Ruby's little extremist run that they did for a minute. Like, all of these are foundational Mormon rooted concepts, but it would be a lot. I mean, again, who's going to go through a traumatic event like this and piece apart their faith? Like, generally speaking, when everything else in your life is falling apart and you have one thing, one solid thing to cling to, is somebody going to let that go in that time? No.
Exactly.
That's why I don't fault Kevin in this position, and I don't fault Sherry in this position either, because when everything is crumbling around you and you only have one thing that seems to be standing solid and safe in the background, why wouldn't you run to that thing? Like, I'm not going to fault people for doing that. It makes perfect sense to me. Like, if somebody wants to blow up their whole life and examine all of it, I would say that's incredible, and I would highly commend that person, but if my whole life was falling apart and I had one thing left, I wouldn't want to give it up either.
When you think about this in that whole leaving Mormonism thing, there are a lot of people who they deconstruct from Mormonism, they become atheists like me. There are also a lot of people who pick the central idea around Mormonism and they're like, well, it's about Jesus, isn't it? So they deconstruct all the other things and then they find a church
That
or
still supports
some
of it.
other you know group or ideology that surrounds Jesus or whatever, and they stick to that. And maybe there's some more deconstruction that needs to happen. And I don't want to be
It's
in
not a
here kind
bad
of like
path.
shitting on people. Oh, well,
No,
if
it's not
you
bad.
leave Mormonism, then you need to be an atheist like me.
No.
But you cling on to that thing that was, you know, once really safe for you, and you try to pick apart all the other stuff. So it's not something that's exclusive to him. Everybody who's flaming him for still being Mormon or Sherry or anything like
Or
that,
Chad or
I don't
anyone.
want to come off as this guy's a fucking idiot because he can't see it, because I completely understand where he's coming
Because
from.
we've all been there.
Right. Mormon or
I know I have a
Sherry
thought
or
for this. I'm curious what yours is. I feel like I've got a big heart, which I think has led me at times to, because I can see the why someone's acting the way they are, then there can be some confusion of I don't want to hurt them by distancing myself from them, because I can see like it makes sense why you act the way you do. But then the problem is I can continue to let them mistreat me, which isn't okay either. The thoughts on what you do then. What do you do if you know the why? I know why you feel compassion, you feel the empathy for.
What do you do, chat? What do you do? What is that? What are we calling this? Boundaries, everyone. Boundaries, everyone. This is not.
Say it with her.
This is
Boundaries.
Not boundaries. I need like a little graphic.
I'll see what I can do.
But the idea here is not that somebody does something like this is what people I think conceptualize, like cutting somebody off. They're like, oh, somebody offended, cut them off their life, talk to them forever. It's like, generally speaking, people who are actually in contact with their parents not to have that experience. That's generally not where that comes from. But the reason boundaries exist is it's a protection for you. So you can keep people who do crazy shit in your life. You can love people who have irresponsible or maybe even unhealthy. You can have those people in your life. But in order to have them in your life, you have to have boundaries, because your boundaries don't control their behavior, it controls you. So your boundaries are your little fence to protect yourself. So what am I willing to allow? What am I not willing to allow? What am I willing to let go and what am I not? Where are the areas that I feel like I can help somebody without becoming resentful versus where's that line? Like, the answer to this question emphatically I can't think of a better answer than boundaries. It's like, you can have what am I not in your life as long as you are doing things to keep you safe and protect you and protect your relationship with them. Because the answer here is important. Because if you don't have boundaries with these people, and sometimes unintentionally, unconsciously, they will run you ragged. Those people in your life, they will run right over you. They will drive all over you. They will drive over your boundaries. They will do all of those things. So you have boundaries. It's a little bit of a preventer. Is important because of them doing that. And sometimes you even set boundaries and they still drive over them. Then boundaries. Like, sometimes they are still mowing your fence down because they don't care. But when you have that as a protection over your boundaries, they will do all. Then you can go, okay, what am I gonna do now? Set boundaries, and because they still set the boundary. respect my boundary, pulling your fence now down. I'm going to have to do some additional things. I'm going to have to put some things in place. Maybe I need a break from you. Maybe we don't talk for a while. Maybe I stop answering your calls when you call me at 3 a.m. Like, what are the things that I'm going to... The boundary, that is the question. Being, like, you can still be a highly empathetic, understanding person and have boundaries. Boundaries is kindness. Boundaries is clarity. Like, that is what that is. You want them in any relationship that you have, healthy or unhealthy. So, like, it's not... I think you can still, especially in people-pleasing, often religious culture, we feel bad and have boundaries because it feels like we're hurting people's feelings. If I say no, I'm hurting somebody's feelings. If I'm telling you, yeah, that seems really hard, but unfortunately, I can't help you with that one. That one's too big for me. I don't have time. I'm too overwhelmed. Or I'm starting to have resentment grow for this person, and then our relationship takes a different weird turn. Like, that's what we need. That is the to this. Emphatic. For me, I don't.
But they're abusive. I'm sure you're having to manage that in your own way with having your ex-wife in prison. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've learned that it's totally okay to feel conflicting emotions. And there is nothing wrong with feeling love for a person who's done bad things. I mean, you could take the worst serial killer in history, and would you condemn that person's mother because she loves her son or her daughter?
No.
Right? No. Love is love. And it's, I think, one of the most beautiful aspects of this life. And I stand by this. Everybody, I don't care who you are, everybody deserves to feel love in this life. But there's also room to feel the other emotions of
I would say it's not necessarily. I would say the caveat would be everybody deserves to be loved by Heaven's Father.
Yeah.
But not everybody deserves to be loved by the person they love.
Right. There's some major caveats to that in that
some serious
framework.
Sure.
Betrayal.
Confusion, grief, sadness. All of those emotions are real and they're valid. I love the way that Pixar, Disney portrayed emotions in those series, the Inside Out shows. Because
they're a little triggering for some of us who aren't prepared for it to feel so real and adult, but so conversation.
Pixar movies are why are they kids movies? Because they are so fucking sad. Every single one of them.
I don't watch them.
When you watch them with an adult lens, it's like, where is the fun? Where's the fun? Because all of it is just emotion. Up.
I won't watch
half
Disney
of Up.
Anymore.
He's literally dragging his grief with him the whole fucking time. And people are like, "Oh, it really hits you in the feels right from the whole
movie
exposition is it's bad. I hate it. Or Lilo and Stitch. We saw that recently for the first time in a long time. Holy shit. That's movie, the whole thing is so sad. The original one. I don't know about the new one, but not a good time.
So good.
You're right. And one of the themes that I love in those movies that I think we could learn so much from is we like certain emotions. We have our favorite emotions, and we want those emotions to drive the bus 24/7. But when
you read me.
Therapy, I'm very convinced. I don't know if he said it explicitly.
Real therapy.
Before. Drive the bus is a metaphor that I use often. I don't know if this is what he's referring to, but it's a metaphor that's really common in acceptance and commitment therapy and ACT therapy. We talk about not letting emotions drive the bus, letting self you be in charge of the bus, and letting emotions get off and get on as they fit, but you don't have to control them or try to pull them off or freak out because they're on the bus. Like, it gives the man's in therapy, which I am thrilled about. To say
real
the least.
therapy.
I am thrilled. I hope he has a much better experience than the last go.
In fake therapy.
Feel other emotions. We hate those emotions. They're uncomfortable. We feel insecure. We feel vulnerable. And so we do whatever we can to try to bury and hide those emotions.
Well said. Or blame someone else. Like, there's so many. I've watched myself do that. I don't
Yeah.
like how this feels. So I mean, who do I blame here? Because I don't want to take accountability for this.
Yeah.
You blame
Yeah.
Disney.
Or sometimes it just is. I don't want to realize that this can just allow and it can just be unfair, and there's no resolution to that feeling of it. Just is unfair. It's hard to grapple with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I learned firsthand that the emotions are there, and nothing that you can do is going to change those emotions. You can try to bury them, you can try to, deflect them, hide from them, whatever, but they're there, and they're going to come out in one way or another, in healthy ways or unhealthy ways. And my therapist really helped me to understand this concept of if you want to heal it, you have to feel it and allow yourself to feel
Love a little rhyme.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then learning, and for me, like, there was a real struggle and a challenge because, like, on the Inside Out movies, certain emotions to me were, quote unquote, bad. Like,
Can I say this is extremely common in Mormon lens? Mormonism denies a lot of emotion, particularly anger, but really there's a whole lot of sentiment within Mormonism, even culturally, that it's like, but he's happy. You take your happy pills, and all the housewives are happy and on their antidepressants and getting their boob jobs so that everybody can be happy. And if you're not happy, then you're doing something wrong. Because being happy is a choice in Mormonism. It is a choice. You choose to be happy. And so what is the implication there? If I'm feeling angry, if I'm feeling upset, if I'm feeling sad, then I'm choosing that. I am choosing to be that. And so by result of that, Mormons get really, really good at just shoving emotions that don't fit into the happy category.
Right.
And then just like Kevin said, this is what happens. Emotions are going to come out healthily or unhealthily, regardless of what you do. So you get a choice in how they come out. So by result of that, we're kind of taught to condense them into the happy feelings. If it's not a happy feeling, then shove it to the back.
Turn it off.
And obviously that surfaces in all kinds of ways. But again, another interesting thread where Mormonism, I think, does a lot of damage. Emotion.
And it's just to drive the point home about what it is to be Mormon in Utah. They literally call it Happy Valley,
call it Happy
ironically, because and you just
Be
any
happy.
sort of criticism. That's kind of how I thought we lived in Happy Valley. Like,
just choose to be happy, positive,
Right.
toxic positivity. Like,
so even they kind of know, but
this is
Kinda
interesting.
don't.
This is a much healthier perspective on emotions from a Mormon than I typically hear, and that because he's therapy.
felt anger, like intense anger, white hot, burn your face off
Rage.
anger.
Yeah.
Rage is an understatement. I mean, for the emotion that I felt, I don't think there's a word in the dictionary that matches. And I was scared of that,
For sure.
and I knew, like, this emotion here feels scary to me. And so I needed help in how to deal with that emotion. And so, talking about it,
I think this is good for people who, I don't think people watch this, but I think it's important to emphasize that I think what a lot of people were wanting in response from Kevin was rage. Like, I think what people want from Kevin is an acknowledgement emotionally of the damage that Ruby did. And I think what, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, we're going to have to acknowledge is we are not privy to that. We are not going to
Right.
see, like, regardless of the fact that they were very public, I feel like Kevin is now very private. And I don't think we are going to ever again get a front row seat to his emotions of how he's processing a tragedy, which is probably a good thing,
right.
all things considered. But I hope this is validating to some people to hear that, like, he had rage so deep that he felt like rage didn't even touch the emotion that he was experiencing, which I think is validating for me as a person to hear that he had those emotions in response. And it wasn't just like a, oh well.
Right.
Because I think he's a very, like, calm, collected dude. So to think of him being, like, so enraged that he can't even describe a word for it is very antithetical to the image of him that we have seen over the decades. You know what I mean? Like, it's very antithetical to his presence even here now is very, like, calm, collected.
Right. And I think there's a little bit of righteous indignation among people on the internet that he reserves that right to not keep him. And it's valid because for so long, the criticism of him and Ruby was that their children did not have a private life to keep them safe from the internet and the people that were on the internet and all of that. And we don't think that they should be on the internet. They shouldn't be telling their stories. They don't have consent to, or the ability to consent to having these stories be told and how they're shared and everything like that. And then he keeps that for himself. So I recognize there's probably a lot of people in the comments and who are watching this that feel like it's not fair that he's able to claim that over, but ultimately, ultimately, isn't that what we want in the end? Is that they're not out here telling their business to the whole fucking world and everything like that.
But I appreciate this because I think this is the only time that I've ever heard him talk about being mad about the situation. And I think that's what people want to see. Like, they want to see a raging, angry dad saying, I can't believe you did this to me. I can't believe you did this to my kids. I can't believe it. And I'm sure he thinks all those things. But we are now in a new era of privacy.
Right.
And I don't know that beyond this we're ever going to get access to that. Nor should we, you know?
Right.
I don't know that we should. Well, and we're not here to absolve Kevin of anything. I'm just saying that as a human who has witnessed this case unfold, it is validating for me to see him acknowledge that he has had a lot of anger. Because we can assume, right? One can assume, but it is nice to see him acknowledge that. And I mean, he has no obligation to anybody to say that. He doesn't owe anybody anything. But if anything, you know, I don't know much about this lady or what the hell she does, but I'm at least glad that he had a space to acknowledge that, because that's something that I don't really think that I've heard from him up to this point.
I think it's also important. I know there's a lot of people, usually in the comments when we're talking about these kinds of things, who are kind of like beside themselves that he hasn't been charged with anything and things of that nature. And obviously I'm no lawyer. Obviously, I'm not happy with the way that it's in a lot of cases, even prior to Jody's kind of enmeshment with them, that he was just kind of at least standing on the sideline, if not kind of going along with the things that Ruby was doing.
Yeah.
I'm not happy with that. Is it criminal? I'm not the one who's to determine that, but it's also important to acknowledge that he, especially in this circumstance, was a victim of Jody, just like the way that we saw all the other victims of Jody. And I think in the documentary that's coming out at the beginning of next month, there are a lot of people who are able to tell their stories about
Jesse,
Jesse and Adam, their interactions with Jody and how they were victimized by her as well. So I think a lot is going to come to light about how that was happening and everything like that. And even, I mean, she's in jail. She did the wrong fucking things. Ruby was also victimized by Jody in that sense.
For sure.
Was she able to wield something that seemingly was already there? I think, but it's important to kind of realize how complex.
Well, they're all involved, and it doesn't mean that anybody is any less responsible, because Ruby still did the shit.
Right.
We can just hold a nuanced perspective and go, yeah, let's look at how this happened, right? Like, let's look at why we got to this point and how Jody, I think, ignited something in Ruby that was already there. But are we going to hold Ruby any less accountable because Jody was the one who lit her on fire? No, I don't think so. I don't think she should. Behavior's still behavior, regardless of where you learned it from.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We've been covering this at length for
so yeah, long. I know, for so long. So it's just and he said it, like, there's so much nuance that needs to be looked at. Like, we don't want to be looking at black and white and heroes and villains.
We're not good at nuance on the internet. That's for sure.
Right. And there's a lot of outrage to be had, and
validly.
Rightfully so, right? Because we watched this kind of unfold.
Horrendous thing.
And we all just had to hold our breath and see what was going to happen next, because like you couldn't do anything about it. And it's frustrating to reach a point where we're like, this person still needs to be held accountable, and there's probably not anything additional to happen or anything like that. But it is interesting to see a lot of the insight that we were missing, because I mean, it kind of makes you wonder what all the Hulu documentary ended up tossing out, or
Yeah, 'cause that was a lot of time.
32 hours is a long time for him to be talking, and I'm sure a lot of it was probably redundant with other people who were talking about same things,
Different
and things
things,
like
yeah.
that. But it is kind of makes you wonder what all he was
And
sharing.
I will say, this is not something that he would be put on trial for publicly, but I would venture to guess, and I don't know, maybe he feels differently, but I would venture to guess that Kevin is held accountable by his own regrets every day. I think that is an internal
Right.
prison that he
And
gets
maybe
to
that's
live
enough.
with. And, no one can understand the pain of something like that and the potential regret. And what if I would have done this, or what if I would have done that, or what if I wasn't brainwashed by Jody and I was able to intervene sooner? Like, I feel like it would be mental prison to be stuck with those questions all of the time. And I'm not going to say whether that's judgment enough, because I am not the judger.
Right.
I am not the jury. I am not the judge. I am not any of that. But I think that's a factor that maybe doesn't get talked
Right.
about enough.
And he had to see those pictures of his children. I saw them; they were horrendous. And to think of my own child like that
Indescribable.
is awful. But ultimately, I've mostly forgotten those pictures. Those are his children, and there's no way that he's ever going to probably
Forget that.
a single day of his life not be remembered or reminded about.
Well, those
those
kids, I think,
images.
live with him now.
Yeah.
He's going to see the effects of what has been done on them
Yeah.
every day for the rest of those kids' lives. Like, there is a lot of prison of his own making that is not demonstrated to the public on a daily basis that maybe doesn't get talked about enough.
Right. Anyway,
Anywho, I don't
if-
want to sit here for 30 more minutes. So if
Right.
there's something really interesting that you want us to react to at the end of this, let us know. But I'm not doing it today
Yeah.
because we've been sitting here for 2.5 hours almost now.
If you liked what you saw, you'd like to see some more, you can subscribe to this channel and you can receive more doses of it and everything like that. Now that school's going to be starting and everything, we'll be able to hopefully
Upload more frequently.
I know the summer has been just like a drink
Chaos.
from the fire hose. And anyway, but if you would like to receive more content, more things, support the channel even more, you can become a member of the channel, or you can become a patron. By the time that this is uploaded, I will put out, because I've been sitting on it for like 2 weeks now, like a 30-minute long blooper of us losing our minds and being attacked by the cats. So if you'd like to see stuff like that, consider supporting us a little more and becoming a member, joining Patreon, whatever. We also have our social media. A lot of the stuff we were talking about at the beginning of this, we're talking about over on our social media on Instagram.
So go follow us on Instagram.
Follow us on Instagram. If you like nice shit posts, people,
Photos of the cat.
we've got it over there. If you want to see us reposting shit that we like on TikTok, you can go over there. We do a lot of shitting
We
on
do a
AI,
lot of reposts on there. Some weird
and
Mormon shit that comes across.
always. So you can follow us on either of those at Jordan and McKay. I don't know how that's going to evolve with the whole TikTok shift that's supposed to be happening. next
Who the
month. I
hell
don't know.
knows?
Also, if you would like to join a community of like-minded people and awesome, just everyday whatever going on, it doesn't even have to be related to us. We have our Discord where we do like live watch parties and things of that nature. You can find the link for that down in the description down below. But we appreciate everybody who stuck around to the end.
We love
You're
you.
amazing.
We can't wait to share this doc with you.
Yeah, we can't wait. We're hoping. We haven't seen anything of it yet. We didn't even see the trailer until it was public. So we're excited to.
We're watching with you.
We're told that we're in the first episode. So please
Who knows?
support that. It's from awesome producers. She did our contact. She worked on Shiny Happy People. So if you're a
think you will
Funny
love
Fridays fan, or you follow the Duggar story and IBLP and everything like that, then I have a feeling you'll probably like this one as well. Anyway, we love you. You're awesome. And we'll see you next time.